Alright, let's see if this is working. So we just have to reset it a couple times. Yep. Alright. Let's get the intermission sign up, just in case if we need it. Oh. There's an intermission sign already in. Okay. I want to hear my... Yep. How does it sound? Oh my god. I don't care. Let me just see it. Yep. Alright. It's fine. Alright. That's good, I guess. I don't know. Anyways. Let's... Alright. So... let's close this tab. This is one of my personal projects. Anyway. For those who don't know what maritime history is, it's about ships. Well, it's not just about ships. It's about everything that happened in the Pacific Ocean and all oceans. And as you can see, I have quite the amount. I have a Titanic shipwreck exploration, which I'm not going to do because I don't know how to play that game. We're going to do the Lusitania, and we're going to do Britannic Patriots of the Mediterraneans. Okay. And for some that are like, that do have like nightmares about the Titanic, because the Titanic is probably the most popular maritime history like story ever. But there is a lot of similar things that happened that were like the Titanic, just years after. Like if we look at, if we Google Atlantic, White Star Line, let's see. Yes, okay, this ship hit rocks some time, I don't know. It hit rocks. It was in service, April 1st, 1873. So that's like 20 years before Titanic. It hit rocks and it sank, and there's not really much of it anymore as a shipwreck because, you know, this was over like 120 years ago. But I think it's one of the most interesting White Star Line tragedies of the time. Now, White Star Line is the company that owned the Atlantic, and it also owned the Titanic when they ordered it. Let's look at Titanic and the shipping docks. Let's get some images. That's the James Cameron movie. That's not real. Wait, what in the world? Hold on. That's the Olympic scraping. Wait, no, it's not. Why is it so clear? It's so weird. Alright, whatever. This is an actual picture of the Titanic in real life. It's beautiful, honestly. And you're wondering, like, what's all these cranes and stuff? Well, it's like, this is when, before Titanic was launched. So this was in building progress. And when it was launched, I mean, it was built in Belfast, Ireland, and I feel like every Belfast builder who lived in Ireland and built the Titanic, they were all proud of what they built. I mean, look at that. That's ginormous. They were so proud. They were so happy. And Titanic was just robbed out of a 30-year service on its maiden voyage just by a single iceberg in the middle of the ocean. Let me rephrase that a little bit. I know a lot of people say that, I know this is a serious, like, tragedy, but how is there just one iceberg in the middle of the ocean? It wasn't just one iceberg in the middle of the ocean, technically. So, if anyone knows Greenland, is it in Denmark? I think, maybe. Yeah, Greenland is the coldest place ever, in my opinion. Like, look at this. So they have a huge ice field just everywhere. And every so often, I think it was in January when they were constructing the Titanic on January 10th of 1910? 1911? I don't know. Possibly 1911. But January 10th, 1910, part of that huge giant ice field just broke off and it started swimming there. It's kind of funny, but it literally just broke off. A huge, like, part of it just broke off and it turned into an iceberg and it swam its way through the entire ocean. And by coincidence, when like 2 years later, by coincidence, the Titanic was sailing on its maiden voyage on the night of April 14th, 1912, at 11:39 a.m., they spot that same iceberg. It's crazy. I mean, it's just unbelievable how unlucky they kind of were. Like, there was so many factors of how it just simply could be better, and how you could avoid that iceberg. So, let's do a little history about the Titanic first. So, Titanic was launched, blah blah blah, and you know, I already said this kind of stuff, but the iceberg was, you know, rolling along the sea, and then not that. There's actual footage of the Titanic. Yes, this one. There's actual footage of the Titanic on April 2nd when it was in Belfast, Ireland. And it had, before it had its sea trials, I think. When it sailed on to Southampton. Look at that. That's so big compared to the people. It still blows me away. So then it had their sea trials in April of 1912. And then, you know, then it got to Southampton for its maiden voyage. So we could get a picture of that. Yes. Okay, so this is on its maiden voyage. Everyone says that the ship is unsinkable. Stupid Cal Hockley face could even say that never God could sink the ship. Now, this is what it looked like when the Titanic was in Southampton. It wasn't sunny. It was just a cloudy day, but full of celebration, honestly. But I don't think it was a huge celebration for Titanic, because Titanic had sister ships. Yes, you heard me right, sister ships. And one of them was the Olympic, and the other one was the Britannic. Wait for the Britannic. We'll tell about the Britannic later. Now, the Olympic was built just before Titanic. I need a sip of my water. Now, Olympic was more famous And nobody really cared about the Titanic because the Olympic was the sister ship. It looked identical. Like here. Let's pull a side-by-side comparison. Olympic RMS. That's the Olympic. And, oh crap. This is Titanic. Can you really tell the difference? I can. And, oh god. I don't know why I'm bragging a little bit. Okay, that looks like, okay, no. Wait. Okay. So then, when Titanic got to Southampton, everyone aboard, 2,200 people boarded the ship, which is crazy for the time. And the ship was so big that they needed little ships. They really needed little ships to go out onto the sea and get boarding ramps just for passengers to go on the Titanic. So look at that. That is the only White Star liner that exists to this day. Yeah, I'm being completely honest. And you guys are like, oh, well, what happened to the rest? I don't know. Got scraped, maybe sank. Anyway. Nomadic was a tiny ship that was in the sea just for Titanic. And they also had another ship called the Traffic, but I don't remember what happened to the Traffic. What happened to it? What happened? I don't know, actually. Wait, it actually sank before? Traffic collided with RMS Hermeric on... Okay, wait, this will tell us. Serving the Olympic-class ocean liners. Its role in Cherbourg, France was to transport third-class... Oh, third-class passengers. Okay. I didn't know that. I thought it was just like... Alright, okay, let's see. Oh god, it survived World War I. Another SS Traffic has existed. Oh. Alright, never mind. In June 1940, so it's in World War II, the Germans refloated it to convert an escort ship. But in January 1941, so around when Wilhelm Gustloff sunk, it was torpedoed and sunk by the British. Why did the British sink it? I mean, it's their own ship, for crying out loud. It's kind of useless, though. Wait, really? Oh. It's not talking about the ship. Oh, God. I'm so dumb. Anyway. Titanic was such a beautiful ship. I'm going to say it again. Titanic was such a beautiful ship, and it was robbed out of a long-term successful career. Now, before we get to the sinking, I would just like to say about all the crappy Titanic theories that are out there that the Titanic didn't really sink, and they swapped up the names for the Olympic. Also, my cat is coming into the room. George! Can you hear him meow? George! George! Come in here. Anyway. So there were crappy theories about how the Titanic, and the Olympics swapped up their names for the insurance money or something. But that couldn't have been possible because in the history books, Titanic was literally edged on with, I think the Titanic's nameplate was literally edged on, I think. So, it couldn't have been possible to delete those letters and just... You can't just go on your computer in 1911 and, swap the names, okay? This was 1911. Anyway, the Titanic and Olympic never swapped the names. And it's so sad because people still believe that theory. Alright, let's get to the sinking of the Titanic. So, on April 10th, Titanic departed from Southampton and it was bound for New York City. New York, concrete jungle, wet dream tomato. Okay, sorry. Anyway, I'm getting really off topic. Anyway, so Titanic departed, and in the evening of April 10th, as it was sailing, they anchored the ship to Cherbourg to, I think, pick up more passengers. Mostly third-class passengers. So then the next morning, when they departed Cherbourg, I think they departed Cherbourg, like, when the sun was setting, like, in April 10th. I don't think it was in the morning, right? Because in the morning, on April 11th, they had another trip to drop off some passengers who just wanted to go on the Titanic for a brief trip. So some people some people from Southampton that needed to get to Queenstown somehow, they actually dropped off some passengers at Queenstown the next morning. And lucky for those passengers, because unfortunately half of those passengers will never be able to see land ever again. So then the Titanic, for the first and final time, departed Queenstown, and then they were out on the open ocean. And it was supposed to be on April 18th that Titanic was supposed to reach New York. I think it was April 18th. So then, 4 days into the voyage, everything is going well. But then lookouts on the crow's nest. Here, I'll pull up a picture and I'll show you what the crow's nest is. So that's the crow's nest right there. So people sit up on there and they literally just oh my god, it's so hard to explain. So they're supposed to have binoculars and they're called lookouts. So lookouts are supposed to have binoculars to look out for like small ice, growlers, or icebergs. So they didn't have any binoculars though. I forgot the reason why they didn't have binoculars. I think some passenger took them with, like, I don't think they stole them, but I think they accidentally stole them. Anyway, flag is inappropriate. No, this is maritime history, you fools. How long is this? 17 minutes. Okay. So then, Titanic hits an iceberg. Well, Lookout Frederick Fleet spots an iceberg, and they only have 37 seconds to respond. So, the officer on oh my god, there's so much to this story. So, the captain was actually in the ballroom when this happened. So, the first officer, William Murdoch, actually was in control of the ship at around that time. So, at 11:40 a.m., they spot the iceberg. They try to turn the ship around, but the ship is so big, it takes like 40 seconds to move the ship. So then, Titanic spots an iceberg. I think I should just pull up the actual, like, Titanic real-time sinking. Let's get the latest one right here. Okay. So, April 14th, 1912. The RMS Titanic, the largest ship in the world and largest movable object ever made, is just 5 days into her maiden voyage to New York. Sailing out in the middle of nowhere on the open ocean. Everyone's basically asleep because it's, like 11:40. It's almost midnight. 2,208 passengers and crew, with a few exceptions, have thoroughly enjoyed their crossing thus far. This night in particular is described as the kind of night that make one feel good to be alive. For many, a good book and a warm bed aren't inciting enough to end the nightly festivals and conversation. Perhaps a few linger in the first-class lounge, much to dismay of the stewards. I'm gonna shut my door real quick. And outside, meanwhile, nearly 100 feet above the Atlantic, lookouts Frederick Fleet and Reginald Lee keep watch. That's the crow's nest, right there. They have been told to keep a sharp lookout for ice. A drop in temperature has left the promenades deserted, and the late hour has subdued even the transatlantic regulars. I can't believe my vocabulary is like this right now. How do I understand these words? But an arrival in New York just 2 days out fills Titanic corridors and cabinets with anticipation. So, they would arrive in New York on like the 16th? I don't know. So this room is the grand staircase, which is right next to the outside promenade decks. Well, not promenade. Well, yeah, promenade. But on like where the lifeboats are. It's so quiet, and you hear that do you guys hear, like, try not to listen to the clock, but listen to that kind of thunderous roar. You guys hear that? So that's actually the deep rumble in the engines like 6 stories below the Titanic, because there's like 16 stories of the Titanic. So you hear, okay, that's an even more clearer engine sound. Listen on that second shot. You can definitely hear the engines rolling. This is what the first class would have looked like. 112 years on, one despairing fact alone pulls us back to this seemingly pleasant crossing. And then here we go. So this is where lookout Frederick Fleet spots the iceberg, and there's a bell on that crow's nest right there, and he rings the bell, and he actually has a telephone to pick up the officer and tell the officer that there's an actual iceberg coming their way. So then that gives Officer Murdoch to respond. Let's see how the scene plays out. Titanic will not survive the night. You hear the telephone ring. So then Mr. Murdoch orders a hard to starboard, which actually means turn the ship to port. You'll see the iceberg in a moment. But there was no moon in the sky that night. The stars, it was such a flat calm. And it was so devastating. Like, there was no moon to shine on that iceberg, so they could see it from a mile away. There it is, that giant iceberg. You can kind of see the ship turning a little bit. Oh my god. That's terrifying. Okay, they turn, and the iceberg kind of scrapes along the side. Like that. Titanic graces the side of the iceberg, opening small seams between her hull plates. She instantly begins taking on water. So, yeah, it only really kind of scraped it through. They didn't really pry it open. But you could see those scrapes, like right there, right there, right there. That's still a lot of water flooding in there for the Atlantic Ocean. So then Mr. Murdoch orders a hard to port, which is to turn the ship to starboard. So instead of the Titanic like hitting that entire iceberg and opening the entire hull, they turn the ship around to not cause any more damage. So you could see how it turns and it doesn't hit any more like sides of the ship. Imagine you're a passenger on the Titanic and you just see that. And then there's special quotings from actual passengers aboard Titanic. It seemed to me like scraping and tearing, more than a shock. It was on the starboard side of the ship, under our room, and then the ice came into the porthole. Jeez. So now, this is like the first floor of the Titanic. This is like the bottom floor. And you can see this is like, they're all the people that are working down there to get the engines running, they're all screwed. Because, I mean, look at this. Look at how much water flooded in there in seconds. And it's all black because of the coal. Just 12 square feet of damage will be enough to make history. God, these quotes, they're killing me. First Officer William Murdoch has already shut the watertight doors. Oh yes, the watertight doors. How could I forget? So there are watertight doors in the ship to prevent any more flooding. They're also called watertight bulkheads. Now Titanic could float with 4 compartments pried open, but she struck more than that, unfortunately. An innovation in safety meant to make Titanic practically unsinkable. And because so many people called it practically unsinkable, there weren't enough lifeboats on the ship because people thought it was a waste of deck space. And if the ship ever sank, which people thought it wouldn't sink, they wouldn't need all those lifeboats because it would never sink. And they wouldn't need those lifeboats because even if it did sink, people would think it would take so long to sink that a rescue ship would get there in time. So they would get all those they would get all the materials to get on the ship without using those lifeboats. Titanic should have had 42 lifeboats, I think. And they only had 16 lifeboats and 2 collapsibles. Or no, I think it was 4 collapsibles. Then the captain of the ship, Captain Edward James Smith, steps onto the bridge. Murdoch recounts the details of the incident.
What have we struck, Mr. Murdoch?
We've struck an iceberg, sir. I put her hard at starboard and stopped engines, but it was too close. She hit it. I intended to port around it, but she can't take the work or do anymore.
So then every officer and the captain himself, they all kind of pause. I think that's what happened in my opinion, because they did everything they could have possibly done to, make that situation not as bad as it actually did. I mean, the watertight doors were shut. Murdoch ported around it. So people must have thought that they probably didn't even, they barely hit it. So then there's a bit of silence as people just, or as the crewmen like fonder around what the actual hell just happened. So then they slow down the engines to prevent any more flooding, because if you're steaming, if you're like, if you're speeding across the North Atlantic Ocean with water below, the ship could take a deep dive down as the ship plots forward and like get more flooding, more water into the ship. So they slowed down the engines, and the fourth officer, Joseph Boxhall, leaves the bridge to inspect below decks. So we'll see what happens then, because I'm not spoiling it. I'm chewing on something. Okay. Many passengers who did not feel the iceberg collision note that the ship's engines have fallen strangely silent. They seem to reverse for a moment but fall silent again. So then, when some of the passengers wake up due to that iceberg collision, but it didn't really make a sound. And when many passengers got woken up, they also ponder what the actual hell happened because the engines have stopped now. And usually if you're a third class, second class, first class passenger aboard Titanic, you would hear the deep rumble of the engines. But you can't hear them anymore because the engines have stopped. So now everyone's literally paused, except for the fourth officer because he's going down to inspect below decks. The dancing motion and the vibration ceased suddenly after being part of a very existence for 4 days, and that was the first hint that anything out of the ordinary had happened. That's insane. So now Titanic is listing a little bit to the starboard side. I can't remember my starboard from the port. I think it was starboard. We have struck an iceberg, a big one, but there's no danger. An officer just told me so. That's another part of the sinking that happened, where all crewmen said that there was really no danger. We'll go more in depth of that when they find out that the ship is actually sinking. Let me check the chat real quick. Nobody's watching. Okay. The ship's engines are set to slow ahead. So then, third class passengers that are still awake, they go out on deck because they very clearly heard the iceberg. And they go out on the deck and they see this pile of ice. And what do? They play soccer with it. They take it as an advantage because third class passengers were treated poorly, super poorly. And I feel so horrible for them because none of them really made it out alive. And I'll tell you why when we go more in depth. Crewmen emerge from their quarters to investigate the commotion and find the forward well deck littered with pieces of ice. They return to bed, cursing the iceberg for disturbing them. Those stupid officers. Anyway. Imagine if imagine if they got even more unlucky and a rogue wave just started coming their way and they just Lusitania styled the whole thing. That would have been horrible. Alright. Lamp trimmer Samuel Hemming follows a curious hissing sound originating from a tank vent pipe. His conclusion, the peak tank is flooding rapidly. So I guess this is where the flooding starts. It's starting to flood in the mailroom, which is the second floor of the Titanic, I think. Just above the boiler room. But everything on deck seems fine. 11:45 p.m. So this is just like 5 minutes after the iceberg collision. Following the brief excitement of the passing iceberg, for many the first iceberg they have seen, passengers return to their card games and ward bends. A few third-class passengers begin kicking around the ice on the forward. See, I told you, I'm smart. I remember all of this. Oh my god. That's awful. The mailroom is already, like, underwater, basically.
Stop engines.
So now I think the captain got a little bit worried that Joseph wasn't coming back. Maybe he didn't found enough damage. So then he stops the engines for the last time. And this would be Titanic's last position, basically, in the middle of the ocean off the coast of Newfoundland. J. Bruce Ismay, the chairman and managing director of the White Star Line, finds Captain Smith on the bridge and asks if the ship has been seriously damaged. Smith answers, "I'm afraid she is." Now, remember J. Bruce Ismay. He's kind of selfish. That's all I'll say. I just don't believe that this is all true. Like, this actually happened in my life. So now, since the boiler rooms are flooded, the ship starts venting steam because for the past, like, 5 days, Titanic has been putting coal and steam in those boilers to keep Titanic's engines running. But now that the ships are stopped, and the dampers are shut, where else is that steam gonna go? So, they start venting the steam to prevent exploding. Because if they didn't vent steam, the steam would literally force out of the boiler rooms and cause like a lot of explosions and causing even more damage. So they start venting the steam, and venting steam is like the loudest thing in the universe. So now many passengers start to hear that from their cabins. They can hear the venting steam all the way from their cabins. So they decide to get up on deck. Some passengers get up on deck to see what is actually going on. But then the first class passengers head back inside because they don't want to hear like that annoying noise. And plus they'll catch their death of cold. Alright, so like I said, the noise is deafening. Passengers retreat to their quiet of their cabins, while crewmen struggle to communicate on deck. A poor start to what will soon be a full-scale evacuation. Jeez, these captions are like terrifying. Let's move on. If one imagines 20, I don't know what that is, blowing off steam in a low key, it would give some idea that of the unpleasant sound that met us as we climbed out on the top deck. I mean, I agree with you guys. Two stokers who had slipped up onto the promenade deck said to me, "Do you think there's any danger, sir?" I replied, "If there is any danger, it would be due to the vessel having sprung a leak, and you ought to know more about it than I." That's completely true. So the ship kind of looks completely fine, but it's listing a little bit. I'm streaming to no one right now. That's funny. Multiple crewmen witnessed the tarps over the cargo hatches ballooning due to the rush of water into the holds below. So now G deck, G deck, whatever. I think G deck starts to flood at this point, starts to leak a little bit. And third class passengers are starting to know it. Now, I think this was where the squash court was. So, yeah, now the squash court is... Say bye-bye. This is your final moments. I'm so awful. So this is 10 minutes, just 10 minutes after Titanic collided with the iceberg. Officer Boxhall finally returns from his inspection, having found no evidence of damage. Clearly, he did not reach boiler room number 6, where water has already reached 8 feet above the floor plates. Jeez. That's terrifying. The ship's carpenter reports water in the first 3 holds. Finally, some people have some common sense. Captain Smith leaves the bridge to investigate. Oh, really? I didn't know that he investigated. Titanic is designed to stay afloat with her first 4 compartments flooded. Between the carpenter's report, Hemming's vent pipe observation, and Fireman Barrett's earlier testimony from the boiler rooms, it can already be seen that 5 watertight compartments have been breached, and Titanic's final hours have begun. Alright, here we go, boys. Oh, Jesus. But I don't think they confirmed that the Titanic is sinking. It's only until the ship's designer walks up on the bridge and, asks what's going on, and then he does an inspection, and he tells Captain the news, and then that's where the inspection, and blah, 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 you know what I mean. I think this is where the lights go out in boiler rooms, right? The lights go out in the boiler rooms, right? Right? It's gonna pop up any second now. It's gonna pop up. I know it. I've watched this video so many times. I know it's gonna pop up. Yes! I knew it! 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 Lights go out in the boiler rooms. Well, womp womp. So you could see where the stairs are, the emergency stairs, are now flooding. This is not good. And then the lights go out. This is not good at all. It's like a tsunami wave of water. Jeez. And I think still first class passengers, second and third are still trying to investigate. Alright, Officer Boxhall finally sees the damage for himself. Water has reached within 2 feet of G-deck, so now G-deck starts to flood by the mailroom. That's not good. And the ship is still venting steam. As I went downstairs, a confirmation of this tilting forward came in something unusual about the stairs, a curious sense of something out of balance and of not being able to put one's feet down in the right place. Let's see real quick. Yes! Yes! He's finally here! Thank the Lord! Anyway, I'm just doing a maritime history live stream. Finally, Jesus. Alright. Let's continue. Let me do a quick summary of what's happened so far. So, Titanic struck the iceberg. Officer Boxhall comes down to inspect, blah, blah, blah. Officer Boxhall, and never mind. Let's just continue. We'll figure it out later. You figure it out for yourself. I could not see any visible slope of the stairway. It was what? Only by the sense of balance at this time. Lawrence Beasley. Alright. Is Thomas Andrews gonna, like, do something? Oh, finally! Thomas Andrews is mentioned. Thomas Andrews, the chief architect of Titanic shipbuilding firm Harland and Wolff, is seen on his own inspection. While most aboard Titanic will consider her unsinkable, even to the bitter end, Andrews will know with just a glance the true nature of the situation. By this moment, he has seen the flooding in the mailroom. Uh-oh, this ain't good. I hate those kind of shots. They're crappy. They don't really show much. Well, actually, they do. I hate them. I don't know why. Let's see. Yeah. Alright, so we're in, like, first class dining room, I think, now. Doesn't look so first class. It's probably, like, second class or something. Uh-oh, water's flooding into the F deck now. Can we get an F in the chat for F deck? The order is given to prepare the lifeboats for lowering. Titanic's 14 lifeboats, two emergency cutters, and 4 collapsible boats provide space for roughly half of the 2,208 on board if filled to capacity. That ain't good. These 20 boats are actually more than are required by law and more than Titanic will have time to launch before the night is over. Oh my god, I keep dropping my stuff. Alright. Okay, we get it. Water's flooding into F deck. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Oh no, the mailroom. Officer Boxhall reports what he has seen to Captain Smith on the bridge. Alright, so now crewmen are lowering, or no, swinging out the boats. Around 12 p.m., I felt cold water coming into my bed. Oh god, third class oh god, that's horrifying. Imagine waking up to that. And imagine of you just assuming it was a broken water pipe. That's awful. Alright, they swing out the boats, blah blah blah. The lights in the boiler rooms come back on. What? How? It's already underwater. Well, not really, but it's flooding down there. It's like absolute hell. Anyway. Alright, yeah, water has now reached within 2 feet of F deck near the mailroom. Yeah, you showed us shots of that. Thanks a lot. Okay. Okay, they're swinging out boats. I'm gonna have to fast forward a little bit. Alright, okay. More dialogue is right here. Captain, my wife is not in good health. She has gone to bed, and I don't want to get her up unless oh my god, excuse me. Unless it is absolutely necessary. What is the situation? John Jacob Astor, the richest man aboard Titanic. God, I feel so horrible for him. Spoiler alert, he dies later in this situation. Colonel Astor, you better get your wife up at once. I fear that we may have to take to the boats. Alright, okay, yeah. Alright, 12:05 a.m. So that's like 15 minutes after Titanic struck the iceberg. By this time, deckhands are seen beginning the laborious process of uncovering and preparing Titanic's lifeboats. Between removing the canvas covers, stowing the portable guardrails, loading the boats with provisions, and loading them with food and more, this will take some time. Yeah, no duh. The officers were getting the lifeboats ready. They did not seem to be worried. I questioned one of them. He laughed at the idea that the Titanic was in great danger and said the boats were being made ready simply as a precautionary measure. Well, I think you spoke too soon. Just wait another 2 hours and 40 minutes. Then we'll see where you are, girl, in your stateroom or underwater. Okay, can you get Discord because Google Meet is broken for me? My parents won't let me. Alright. When we reached the second cabin promenade deck, we found a great many people there. Some officers were walking up and down and shouting, "There's no danger, whatever." Officers, you suck! You literally just... You're so bad at handling situations. Why don't you just tell them the truth and chaos breaks out and everywhere? Titanic is like Titanic is doomed right now. Alright. As flooding of the forward compartments continues, crewmen are forced to gather their belongings and evacuate their quarters. Goodbye, quarters! My quarter looks like a prison, but that's okay. I'll still miss you. I don't really know if the crewmen know that it was actually going to sink. Alright, okay, we get the point. A long fading out. You cannot sink this boat, no matter what we have struck. She is good for 8 or 10 hours. No comment. (12:10 a.m.), so this is like 30 minutes. 30 minutes. Water seen nearing E-deck. E-deck already? After fully flooding the post office. So now water's flooding into the pool. Into the pool area on E-deck. Alright, yeah. Yeah. Okay. Captain Smith orders the lifeboats to be swung out and passengers to be brought on deck. You said that 15 minutes ago. What are you yapping about? Alright, now F deck is completely screwed. We are in the north and have struck an iceberg. It does not amount to anything, but will probably delay us a day getting into New York. However, as a matter of form, the captain has ordered all the ladies on deck. Oh yeah, the men don't matter. I forgot, like, the men don't matter in this. 'Cause it's women and children only, blah blah blah. Well, that's not good. Boiler room. This entire boiler room is literally... You just can't go down there anymore. It's literally just a swimming pool now. Alright, let me... Oh, crap. No, wait. Pause. Pause. Yeah, let's go meet all the way. No. Probably not. We just talk and chat. Oh, what happened? What? How did so many people just get out on deck with their life belts so quickly? 1 minute ago, it was like nobody's on deck. And now, like, everyone? What in the world? Did they just use their teleporters? Stewards begin walking passengers and sending them to the boat deck with life belts. I see. Around this time, the ship's orchestra, yes, Titanic had an orchestra, led by band leader Wallace Hartley, begins playing music to keep up spirits. These men are unaware they are beginning one of the most famous concerts in music history. I wouldn't say it's the most famous. I wouldn't even call it a concert. Well, I mean, it was a concert for, like, back then. Like, but it's not as big as, Pink Floyd live in, like, Europe 1994, okay? It's not as big as Metallica 1991, okay? In Moscow. Na, 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 na. But these songs are catchy. Na, 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 na. Na, 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 na. Na, 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 na. 12:15 a.m. That's the time I get to school. Alright, so now everyone's assembled on the grand staircase. Captain tells Marconi telegraph operators, John Phillips and Harold Bride, to stand by. They may need to send a CQD, oh my god, I can't say anything anymore. The distress call of the time. Oh my god, it's so catchy. Quite a shock coming from a captain who just a few years earlier stated, "I cannot imagine any condition which would cause a ship to founder. Modern shipbuilding has gone beyond that." And this is 1912. Like, what? Like, cruise liners weren't a thing back in 1912. It was ocean liners. And to be fair, ocean liners are much better. Let's continue. I love the silly animations with the people. They improved on that when they did the Lusitania sinking. I'll probably show you that. Alright, let's fast forward a little bit. So we know the ship is sinking. Not many people know that. Only, like, the captain really knows that. And Thomas Andrews. So they're getting all the lifeboats up. We're trying to make it as calm as possible. As we can see with the orchestra playing, it seems to calm mostly everyone down. So let's fast forward a little bit. Let's fast forward to where they start firing rockets. Right here? Is that it? I don't know. That might just be a flare. Not a flare. Caronia is reached by wireless. She is 728 nautical miles from Titanic's CQD position. Oh, that's like great. Oh, 728 miles away. Oh my gosh, they're gonna reach us in time. Yay. Oh my god. Too great a distance to reach Titanic in time. Yeah, I think we know that. Alright, so now people are starting to get in the lifeboats, but many people are skeptical because they don't want to catch their death and cold in those lifeboats. And they're still skeptical. I mean, oh my god, I can't say anything. But never mind. Never mind. Just, let's continue. Oh, and here we begin the woman and children only bullcrap in this situation. So, Second Officer Charles Lightoner heard the captain say woman and children only, but he really said woman and children first, which means women and children can get into the lifeboats, but only when all the women and children are gone, that's when men can get into the lifeboats. Not many men survived, really. And to be honest, the lucky men who were on the port side and got into the port side lifeboats, they were lucky that they chose the port side lifeboats because everyone was on the starboard side where the collision happened, and that's where mostly all the women and children are. Let's continue. Let's pause for a second. I have to wake up at like 6 for school. Jesus, are you in high school, man? Also, you ever want to go to bed, but also do something so you can do it, but also try to go to sleep quick, and the sun comes out, you're like, what? But also, well, yeah. I always, like, smash my pillow and cry. That's what I always do. Anyways, let's continue. So about an hour into the sinking, which is a quarter of Titanic, of how much it actually took to sink. Officer Boxhall shows Captain Smith an updated position and is told to take it to the wireless room. These new coordinates are still 13 nautical miles west of Titanic's actual location. Oh, Jesus! God, they screwed up on this. 13 miles away from Titanic's actual location. Yeah, I think I know why this is such a tragedy now. Oh. What? Hold on. Asian is reached by wireless. She is 325 nautical miles. Oh, that's even better. Oh, that's great. Nautical miles from Titanic's CQD position. Too great of a distance to reach Titanic in time. Yeah. We get the point. Alright, John Jacob Astor. He's mentioned again. John Jacob Astor, the richest man aboard Titanic, is about to board the lifeboat number 7 with his wife, Meladine, but suddenly draws back from the small boat. For now, he will choose the safety of the 46,000-ton ship. Poor John. Like, oh my God. It's still crazy about what happened. Oh, yes, the infamous Carpathia. RMS Carpathia. Now, RMS Carpathia, I think, is about 75 miles away from Titanic. RMS Carpathia asked, do you know that Cape Cod is sending a batch of messages for you to Titanic? And Titanic is just like, F that, we're sinking, come to our location now. So, spoiler alert, RMS Carpathia it was the actual ship that saved Titanic, because they actually came in the morning at like 5 a.m. And RMS Titanic says, come at once, we've struck a berg. It's CQD OM position 41 degrees, 46 north, 50.14 west. Shall I tell my captain, do you require assistance? Do you require assistance? Boy, what do you think? Come quickly, old man. That's so funny, because back then, wireless communication was the only thing. It was kind of like texting, but they had their own kind of language of responding to ships in the area. And they had their own kind of roasts. And people who kind of acted dumb on other ships, they always called them like old man. And that was like the roast back then. It was kind of hilarious. Alright, another ship. Baltic has reached the Coronia. She is 243 nautical miles from Titanic and will soon begin steaming toward her CQD position. Burma is also reached. She is 107 nautical miles away. Neither ship is close enough to reach Titanic in time. Except for one ship, but we will get to that later. Require immediate assistance. We have Collision with an iceberg. Sinking. Can you hear nothing for noise of steam? Blah, blah, blah. What kind of ship design is that? I mean, RMS Baltic? Like, what the heck is that kind of ship? What in the world? That looks crazy. Alright, so it's 12:40 a.m. So Lifeboat 7 is the first lifeboat to be launched out of like the 21 lifeboats. Titanic has been sinking for 1 hour. Roughly 28 passengers and crew have evacuated, while 2,180 lives remain on board, most unaware their time is running short. Womp womp. Well, actually, no. Dun dun dun. Okay. And still, E-deck is flooding still. Alright, let's fast forward a little bit. Let's fast forward to when they fired their first rocket. Oh! Wait, I missed it. Or no, this might have been their first rocket. So, what were those rockets for? Those were for SOS signals. So, if some ships didn't require wireless, they would fire rockets so anyone from like a 10-mile radius could see that, oh no, something bad is happening over there. Let's race toward her location. This was the first distress rocket, okay. So now the E-deck elevators are flooding. Not good. And finally, the venting steam has stopped. Oh, wait. You literally have to, hold on. You literally have to wake up at, or no, you're in 6th grade? Oh. My bad. Funny enough, I'm gonna be in 8th grade this year. Great. Love it. See, now F deck is flooding. F in the chat for F deck again. Enough water has flooded the breached watertight compartments that is now spilling over the bulkhead into the next compartment. Not good. Alright, so now at around this time, the same cycle of things happens. They keep firing distress rockets. The ship goes lower and lower. It fills into each compartment until the propellers are in the air. They lower away all the lifeboats. So let's fast forward all the way to pretty much the end of the final, like, 15 minutes.
Mr. Vauxhall, come round to the starboard gangway doors to take on additional passengers.
So now everything is kind of flooding. I think this is C deck, and C deck is not looking so good. Let's fast forward. And now pretty much every lifeboat has gone off the ship. The lights are still going somehow. I don't know why. But then Titanic reaches his final plunge. And everything just slides over because of the angle she's at right now. So yeah, and then the funnels start falling, crushing passengers. And then when she gets into this angle, the ship's the ship starts developing stress because of the angle, and she can't handle it. So then she breaks in two, which cuts off the power as well. So let's watch as this terrifying moment happens. Boom, the ship snaps in half and the lights are gone. And that fart falls off right there. God, that's horrifying. So then, people speculated now that it's split in half, there's not enough water to keep the boat flooding, or no, the ship going underwater. But they were wrong. So it slips up. It does like a 30-degree angle. Well, like a straight angle. The propellers aim to the sky. And finally, after 2 hours and 40 minutes of Titanic, after Titanic hit the iceberg, it slips under the waves. It just goes under. Just like that. Now Titanic is gone. Which is... it's something. The RMS Titanic disappears into the calm Atlantic Ocean. And pretty much every lifeboat has sailed away from Titanic's location. And they just look in horror, not knowing what to do. Because their lifeboats are full, pretty much. But there's still 1,500 passengers drowning and dying of hypothermia. So, the RMS Olympic actually caught Titanic's wireless communication. It was difficult, but the sister ship knew what was going on. Olympic was actually like 500 miles away from her, but they still tried to go to their location. Olympic continues at full steam toward her sister's last known position, unaware she's already lying at the bottom of the Atlantic. So then, this is where we fast forward to 3:30 a.m., an hour after the Titanic had fully submerged. This is where the RMS Carpathia reaches Titanic's location and picks up all the passengers. This is where the rescue operation happens. So then, at around 5:50 a.m., the sun rises, and I think everyone's aboard at this time. So then they sail on with all the wreckage and, you know, just staying at that location. And that's it for Titanic. That was a 1 hour and 18 minute live stream. Jesus. It took me 1 hour and 18 minutes to literally just talk about the Titanic. And we still have like 3 shorts to go. What is this? A short for me? What is this?
Hello there, Mr. Luke. I am here.
How dare you? You're so scary. That's terrifying. Anyway, why did I say how dare you? I always say how dare you. Anyways, we just went through Titanic history. So, why don't we board the Lusitania? Ooh. And you know what? We'll save that for another live stream. How about that? So, yeah, I think that's it for this live stream. Thank you guys so much for watching. And, yeah, I'll see you in another live stream.